breadth of experience here with our experts. So let's get straight to it. For B2B marketers, our biggest obstacle is usually complexity and fear of failure. Do you agree? How many of us are in the B2B sector? Raise your hands. Okay. So I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions this afternoon. So let's go back to basics. What is B2B marketing? Which one of you would like to start? We start with ladies.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. So B2B marketing is business to business. There's been an evolution from B2C, which is business to consumer, and it's moving also to B2B. But then again, as a CTO, I say that there's also H2B. What do I mean by that? It's human. Because both spectrums also handle the human element.
Okay, Jerry, you want to add something?
I want to echo that previous point. I think all marketing is about conversations. I think whether you're speaking to a business or an individual, I think it's really important to make sure that your message is congruent and really you understand what your target audience really wants. So whether it's B2B, whether it's B2C, as long as your message resonates with your audience, then that's marketing.
Okay. Victor, why do marketers fear this B2B sector? We call it a sector. Should we call it marketing? What should we call it?
In B2B, if I can say for my case, you really don't get to meet the customers, if I can put it that way. So you don't get a chance to celebrate like big wins like the B2C marketers. And because of the complexity of what is involved, and sometimes maybe your background is not what you're selling. So it kind of it's fearful for some.
Okay, so you're saying that the marketers may be involved in an area that they don't have a specialization in, and so it becomes extra scary.
Yes.
Do you have an example?
Well, I can speak for myself. I work at an organization called Esri in Africa that deals with GIS, which includes geographic information systems. So the people who deal with it are technical people, guys who studied maybe physical planning and environmental management. But myself, I would call a thoroughbred marketer because my degree is in marketing. Everything I've done is marketing. So you're supposed to take this brand, make it human, if I may, whilst maybe you're not even using the technology yourself.
Okay. So that sort of ties in with what our speakers earlier have been saying, that marketers then need to evolve, and we need to evolve very quickly to be able to understand all the changes that are coming our way. Would that be correct?
Yes, because even though these brands are technical, they need marketing. So for you to be able to make this brand grow, you need to understand. You need to understand it, and then you also need the public to understand the brand. So you have to evolve.
So technology has changed the face of marketing. We've heard plenty about that from our previous speakers. What about in the B2B sector? Have we embraced any changes? The artificial intelligence that Tim was telling us about, data, virtual reality, anything like that? Yeah, Jerry?
I have something to say about that. I think I agree, and a lot of the marketers here probably are on LinkedIn. And especially from a B2B point of view, digital marketing has changed for B2B businesses because of our prospecting. Traditionally, we would need an appointment, a meeting, a coffee, and then a second coffee, a follow-up, etc., to just get the conversation going. Using platforms like LinkedIn has changed the prospecting world in a way that marketers can now embrace and reach one-to-many. So in my case, we reach out to 100 businesses a day using automation. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you start using bots to automate those processes because it's not really, it's actually frowned upon. But if you can do it in the right way, that's not salesy, it's not sleazy, what you don't want to do is just connect with somebody on a platform and then start selling straight away. The opportunity arises to connect with people and to see if there's a common ground before you even start the conversation about sales.
Okay. Earlier this morning, we heard about the importance of word of mouth influencer marketing. Does this have any place in the B2B sector?
Actually, yes, it does. Or like I say, B2B is more on relationship building. So the B2C space is more transactional. So when you're creating the relationships, you build KOLs. I'm sure most of you have KOLs. So KOLs are key opinion leaders within your space. So for example, I work on Panelists, so you have key opinion leaders across also that perspective and across that industry. So you build those people and they speak on behalf of your brand, and they're also able to speak for you. So it's not really a sales pitch, but it's really like a peer-to-peer. So I need a fellow marketer like Jerry, and I know what he's saying is correct. When I see somebody else, I'll be telling them, you know what, you need to talk to Jerry. He has the solution. So it becomes a peer-to-peer because you're dealing at a key opinion leader.
Okay, so would you say that that is where we can fit micro-influencers?
Yes, because they are not dealing in the mass. So there's the difference between the macro and micro. Yes, we keep them in the micro.
Okay, so definitely a space for that, and that's something that the marketers should really look at. And want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to use the example of Elon Musk. Elon Musk uses his personal brand to sell anything that he sold. No one knew about this truck that they launched, I think it's 10 days ago now, or something like that. But really and truly, it was Elon's own personal brand that caused, I think, 4 billion in sales in 24 hours.
Okay, so there's also room for personal branding to drive this agenda. It helps to build the relationships as well, builds the trust. Okay, good. Victor,
Just wanted to add
add please. Yes.
on that need for the micro influencers.
Yes.
Because of the technicality of the product, you would want somebody who's a specialist to be talking about your product. You just don't want anyone. I mean, and most of the time, you do get approached by the influencers. People who have the followers, yeah, and they tell you, I have a lot of followers. But because of the complexity of B2B, it's never one of sale. A sale can take 4 months. It's not something like, I mean, you trade today, tomorrow guys buy. It takes a while. So you really want to deal with somebody who will actually influence that decision to build data. Very niche.
Right. So you brought out the additional point that B2B is very, very different from B2C. You also mentioned that the decision-making process is longer. In your experience, anyone can answer, how on average, how long does a transaction like that take for building that relationship?
In our case, government forms most of our clients. And if I just take you at the start, because you have to initiate the process, you need to have a prototype, you need to test it first. It can take almost 6 months. Because government, once you might actually start the whole process, and then now because government, you have to go through a tendering process. And sometimes you might lose anyway. But it takes a while. So you need to get the right people. You need to know the right people to approach. And just as Jerry said, if you're using LinkedIn, you need to know that you're talking to the right person, the decision maker in most of these B2B organizations. Because it takes a lot of time, you might be talking to the wrong person. So if you really know that you're talking to the decision maker, it shortens that process. And so LinkedIn is one of the places whereby if you want to sell to a particular organization, you can actually just log in see who this decision maker is and actually approach them. So that shortens that process.
Okay, so talking to the right person becomes very, very key, right? So you can tell us a little bit about how. Oh, let me take you back a second. As this whole process is going on, the one thing your boss wants to know. Can we guess what the boss is asking? It's taking 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. What's the boss asking? Where's the sale? Yeah? So how do you handle your boss as he's asking you that?
Could you clarify the question?
How do you handle a situation where your boss expects sales to come in and it's taking you a very long time? The 2, 3, 6 months even that Victor talked about.
I think in my case, I feel that it's managing expectations and understanding the sales life cycle. If your boss doesn't understand his own life cycle, there's something wrong with that, and maybe
Change your boss.
Change boss, right? But having said that, there are ways to accelerate these life cycles, and I think that's what Victor was talking about. 90% of salespeople waste their time on speaking to the wrong prospect. It's usually the gatekeeper that you need to get past, and that person is there for a reason. That's to protect the boss. But your job as a marketeer is to bring that sale to the door so that the salesperson has an elevated place in that sales life cycle to get to the right person to speed up that sales life cycle.
Okay. Dorothy, how do you drive customer retention and loyalty to customers in the B2B segment? We were told earlier this morning it's not always about price.
Yeah, so it's about value. And I think for the B2B space, after you've sold, now the work starts because it's an aftercare service. So the aftercare service and how you handle your customer after the sale is how you will actually retain them. They'll be happy with you and they'll be your voice votes to other potential customers. So the process of how you keep them engaged, not too much in their face, because again, the B2B space is not too much in their face, very subliminal messaging, but like he said, like my two colleagues said, very, very intentional. So just to borrow also a bit on the sales panel, so it goes through a journey. Like what he talked about, what you're saying about the sales, it's the question that every marketer is asked. For every dollar spent, you're supposed to bring return on investment. So how do you show that? So there's the funnel process. You go through the nurturing, it goes to a sales accepted lead, then sales qualified lead. But now the best part for any marketer in the room is when you have that moment when you've moved that sale from a sales qualified to actually a booked, even if it's just one. That shows the follow through from a marketing perspective, and it also shows how you open the door to the right prospect, and also you brought it to the door where now the salesperson can go in and accelerate the lead, maybe even grow it. So maybe you went in and you saw an opportunity for one small thing, but that salesperson can go in and pitch it in a way that it goes to bigger. So yes, so that's in a nutshell.
Okay, and you've worked in so many sectors: hospitality, airlines, technology industry. Now you're with Philips. Maybe you could share with us some tips or some secrets that you've seen these organizations doing in terms of driving the B2B discussion.
Okay, so if I borrow from my best experience in the B2C space was in the airline industry. I think that there was a lot of opportunity to be very creative and very witty, and that really worked very well for Jumbo Jet. I'm now in the B2B space. What I can give as a tip is one, create an emotive connection for your brand. It doesn't matter how complex it is. People talk about different industries being boring or some being very dull, you don't know what to do, but you need to think out of the box because there's unique selling experiences. You need to create those experiences. People believe people and people believe stories. Your brand needs to tell a story. It needs to impact people. Because the moment you get an emotive connection, I think that is the best ingredient to set you up for at least visibility in the first place, and then you can now bring in the sale. First you're visible, then you bring the sale. So for me, it's creating opportunities with the right audience. So instead of big events, go for customized smaller work groups where you're dealing with really the people who are actually you're solving a problem. So it's all about finding a solution. So not pushing products, but pushing solutions as well.
Adding value and providing solutions. Yes. Okay. Jerry, tell us a story about your worst experience when it came to the B2B space. Hopefully, we can learn a lesson from.
That's a really difficult question because I might incriminate people. But I think B2B is really, really difficult because you, as Victor said, there's such a long process involved, lots of people, and not necessarily one decision maker. Although we've talked about talking to the right decision maker, oftentimes there are many, or it's a board of directors, depending on your invoice value. Having said that, a story in Tanzania, we were bidding for a government, an embassy project, which was 7 figures, and we were in the lead, head to head with our competition, and the subject of bribery came along, and that's obviously a very sore and sensitive topic. And one that probably most of us in the room have come across at some stage or another. The most difficult thing that I had to say was no. Because it would have been the easy way to say yes, but the right thing, and luckily we were chosen on merit and we ended up winning that award. However, the most difficult thing for us was to fix on our morals and to maintain that we pushed our values first and our abilities to avoid that trap. So I don't know if that helps and that answers your question, but that was something that just came to mind.
Okay, you said no. Do we have the courage to say no?
Do you have the courage to say yes?
Good for thought.
I think for me, it's very easy to say yes because the opportunity seems so. It's right within touching distance. You pay this much money, you get this. And I know this isn't a conversation about that in particular, but sometimes there's a lesson to learn that you need to be thinking about the long term. And if I bring it back to the sales funnel, then this is what I deem to be nurturing. Even if we hadn't won that, we would have still maintained the conversation with that prospect, and maybe we're in for the next one. Because it's never a short-term sale, it's always a long-term relationship. And as long as you maintain that relationship, then the question of bribery shouldn't even be.
Victor, using the Top Marketers Club as an example, we've all had an opportunity to receive emails from you in different capacities. You use email, you use social media, you use event marketing like this one to reach us as individuals, but also as different organizations that are represented here. Which one of these do you find to be most effective? You can give us with examples.
For B2B, it has to be events. Because you see, what you're doing is you're building a user community. If it's technology based, so you're selling software for a particular group of people, could be software, the oracles, in our case it's called ArcGIS. So you're basically forming a community. So we have user group events. So those user group events, just like this particular event is bringing marketers together, you're also bringing your customers together. And it's through these events that you're able, one, you are able to give your customers an opportunity to tell their story, which works for you anyway. It's much better than advertising. So it's through these particular events that the customer showcases what they don't necessarily sell, but where you also show the human side of your brand. So it's not the place where you start saying 200 bob, you start the selling from that angle, but rather you're using the social media to humanize the brand, as well as lead generation. Now showcase the customer stories that you've been building.
So what I'm getting from the panel is that you will have to have your foot in both online and offline communication. for B2B marketing to actually deliver results? Yes?
Most definitely. You cannot exclude one. So you get your lead from your social media, probably come to your website, sign up for a free trial, comes a lead, gets verified. So, and the place they saw, the first point of contact for you was maybe social media.
Dorothy, you want to add something?
I completely agree with him. You cannot isolate any of the two. The user group events is perfect. Digital is big. We normally use sales tools also to prospect and to follow the lead journey. Yeah, and the user buying journey is also very important. So, like I've learned a lot from Jerry here, what he's done with the sales funnel, I think that's something we can all learn and we can all do this.
Okay. Staying with you, Dorothy. One of the challenges we face as marketers is to demonstrate a return on investment. What kind of metrics should we be putting in place for some of our B2B campaigns?
So there's the leads, definitely, that's the ROI part of it, the bottom line. So you show your lead numbers, and they don't have to be many. So for example, if you had a booth and you had 100 people come to your booth, doesn't mean that every single one of them will lead. So probably you only have only 5 to 7, which is still fine. And then also you can showcase the interactions that people have had if you put something online that was supporting the whole integrated marketing campaign. So you have something online, you have something offline. So how many people actually clicked, how many people interacted, the comments, the sentiment value, how people are perceiving your content. That is something else. Sharing also. That's another way of measuring. You could also, for example, if you had an activation where you needed people, real people, so you could actually say there was 500 people who came against a target of 600 or 1,000, so you can give your metrics based on that. So basically, it's measuring, in my view, measuring the eyeballs, the people actually saw your ad, the people who actually ultimately were converted to opportunities where now the sales people will follow up into leads and into bookings, potentially. Most of the time, marketing people just stop at marketing qualified leads. If you want to go to the next level, I think you should just be pushing your salespeople, push them so that they can move it to a sales qualified and potentially a booking. So that's how I measure.
Okay, I hope you're getting a few ideas in case you were wondering how to demonstrate that your B2B campaigns are actually delivering for you. But what?
I totally agree with what you're saying. However, once again, if we focus on metrics, it's not only about metrics. It's also ultimately, I believe that in order to be number one in your market, you have to have the ability to outspend your competition. And what I mean by outspending your competition is it comes down to your business model, it comes down to your invoice value, your lifetime value. I could be selling something for 200 bob, but if my lifetime value is 10 years, then that's a lot of money every week, for example, as opposed to one transaction, which might be 2 million bob. But having said that, it really comes down to one main metric for me, which is cost per acquisition and lifetime value. Those two things combined, I think, would really determine the success of any kind of marketing campaign.
You mentioned that you need to be ready to spend the money in order to make the money. You alluded to that.
Yeah, so you have to pay to play.
Yeah. So does it mean that those of us who don't have, what are they called? Large budgets? Big budgets? How do we do it?
I don't think you need a budget, really. Yes, you do need to pay to play. And if you are in the B2B game, then it's not like you're just making some cosmetic oils in your back garden, that you're going to just try and sell, which is more of a B2C kind of process. If you are in B2B, then you need a structure. You do need some sort of business structure. And within that, I think it's really important to make sure that marketing spend is accounted for. Because today, if you're not spending money, whether it's on billboards, radio, TV, or social, then your competition is just going to essentially outspend you and therefore get more eyeballs and therefore get more attention and that's where it all starts from.
We've talked a lot about people. We must have the right people, the right skills. So in today's world, and given that we have an audience here of people who are already in that sector and others who maybe want to get into the B2B space, what are the kind of skills that marketers today need? It's open.
So you need digital marketing skills. Of course, everybody is going there, so to evolve, you need to get there. You also need to have your personal brand, like what we were saying about people not shouting enough. For you to get out there, you also need to put yourself out there, for people to know you and for you to also position yourself. And for your brand again, you kind of sometimes also become you wear many hats. So I liked that question. There was a lady who asked a question in the first presentation about marketers also doing communication. So you might be thrown into that deep end. So just go in, and there's so many free tools also online. You can do the full course, yes, but there are also free tools there, marketing courses in a scale, CIM, that you can also upskill yourself, and also digital classes. And also one other tip that I normally do is listen to a TED talk a day. You find something, you learn something, because your words and learning, you can never stop. Somebody else is a great idea, somebody else is a great story. So you listen to those TED talks and just evolve. Someone else is doing something, you don't need to invent, they will just adapt.
You need to be able to relearn. Just like Joanna did in the morning, it's changing. So the skills you got in at that organization, you need to have changed your tactics. And how do you do that? You need to keep updated with the latest marketing tactics being employed. We need events like this to know about what's next, so that this can also propel you to the next level. So you have to stay teachable, and you have to learn. It has to be a deliberate effort to learn some of these things, especially in the B2B market, because there really isn't a big focus. I tend to think that we have few, so it needs to be deliberate. We look for this knowledge and apply it.
Sure.
I think generally B2B businesses don't really take marketing seriously. I think it's much more of a sales-led organization that I find in business to business. Having said that, I do believe that there is a place if done correctly. So if you're an aspiring B2B marketer, then you must understand your audience. You need to know what their wants, fears, and desires are. And really and truly, if you don't have that, then there's not going to be a place for you, because as my colleagues earlier alluded to, as marketeers, we're the first budget cuts. So if you can't prove your worth, then especially in a B2B market, you're going to be the first one to go. So as, oh my God. If I was going to forget somebody's name, it had to be him. But as Victor talked about, you need to keep on relearning. And I'm a prime example of that. My business that I grew in 2003 is totally different, although it may be the same structure, but my business today is using completely different tools and tactics, although the strategies may remain the same. So relearning is completely essential.
Right, so be ready to learn, build your digital marketing skills, and build your personal brand, and know your customer. Okay, we're almost towards the end, and as we wind up, we'd love to ask the panelists, what do you do in your free time? Let's see if we can find any similarities.
Well, I guess as the newcomer in Kenya, I love to get out and about when I can. I love to explore the country. But if I'm feeling lazy, then there's nothing like sitting there with a good book.
Any that you
And a hammock.
Any particular book you'd like to recommend?
The book that I recommended earlier, Us by Ryan Levesque, I think it's really underrated, although very popular. I think it's underrated when looking at marketing as a whole.
The introvert I am.
Do we believe that Rita is an introvert? No. The audience has spoken. Yes, tell us.
Well, I'd say I spend most of the time online. I spend online getting to research a lot on marketing stuff, and put that way. That's how the vision for the club started. Like you see what other marketers are doing in the different regions, and that is what inspired this. So I spend a lot of time online, learning, relearning stuff.
So we're the beneficiaries. Because if you hadn't done all that research, we wouldn't be here today. So asante for that. Dorothy?
Okay, so I would say what my colleagues are saying, but I wanted to myself. So I like to cook. That's what I do in my spare time. I bake, and I play with my 2 boys, and yeah, and I read books as well, and listen to TED Talks. I like to listen a lot when I'm just working and just put it there, even if I'm not actively listening, going into my subconscious mind.
Diverse personalities. We haven't found anything that links their interests. So that to me says we can take up B2B marketing without fear of the fact that we are not good in one area or the other. We have the opportunity to learn, we have the opportunity to build our skills, and we have the opportunity to get insights to understand our customers. Thank you very much to our audience. And in the words of Dorothy, there is no more B2B or B2C. It is only H to H, human to human. Yes. We open the floor for questions. Question in the second row. Yeah. We shall share next. Okay.
My name is Wilson from Tally International. Now, under Tally, we have a product called Enzo. Basically, it's a loyalty program that targets manufacturing, basically anybody that has a customer. Now, any marketer will tell you that dealing with a corporate is one of the most hardest things. Closing a sale from the time of initial contact to closing, that in between process of nurturing is one of the most difficult stages. So my question is based on that. Apart from the normal nurturing techniques that you use, that is kind of phone calls, follow-up emails, and such other techniques, and you realize that some of these become very annoying because some of the people that you deal with sometimes block you off. You don't want to receive your calls, you don't want to respond to your emails, and basically even looking at talking to the decision makers, sometimes they get too bombarded, they block you off, so to speak. So apart from those 3 or those other techniques for nurturing, in your experience, which other ways can you nurture a client to either shorten the process of closing a deal or to keep the interest there so that you close that business?
To any particular panelist?
Any or all?
So before you answer that, probably you can take 2 more because of time. You get all the questions and then you can respond to them.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Steve from Chicago. My question is actually so I work in a space where I've got both B2B and B2C clients. But then we have unified marketing approaches. So then I want to know, how do we structure communication with different aspects of different campaigns to ensure that each campaign is targeted towards a different target that you want to sort of reach out to. So how do you make that balance when you're dealing with both groups of customers?
There's another hand right at the back.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Caroline Mutua, and my question is to the entire panel. We talked about influencer marketing and B2B engagement, but I think the conversation around influencer marketing probably needs to be a whole conversation on its own. But what are your thoughts around the way we are approaching influencer marketing our definition of influencers basically are people with the largest number of followers, but not necessarily people who subscribe to our brands. What are your thoughts on that?
I think now we may answer those three.
So I'll answer Steve's question first. There's the simple answer is that you need a separate sales funnel for each segment of your audience. So really and truly, if your messaging is correct for your right target audience, then the other target audience is just not going to hear that message. So your B2B customers are not going to pay attention if your messaging is to B2C. It's simple as that. And vice versa. I mean, put yourself in your own customer's position. If you're a B2C customer and you read an ad that's focused towards businesses, are you going to pay attention? Probably not. So the answer to your question, Steve, is focus on having separate sales funnels. I mean, in my business, currently we have 7 different sales funnels operating right now. And some of you may even be targeted by paid ads. Other people may be targeted on LinkedIn, etc., etc. So having separate sales funnels, there is no one sales funnel. It's sales funnel stacking. So you make sure that one sales funnel leads into another, or they're separate depending on who your target audience is. I hope that answers your question.
I would like to answer the first question. The techniques you're using, the follow-up, the email, you need to remember the last statement Thrity made and Dorothy alluded to. We're now in the H2H, human to human. So in between the follow-ups, remember this is a person, this person has a family, what are his interests? Are you always following up? Where did that need reach? Have you taken time to understand, okay, so what excites this guy? Do you have something that he can use without necessarily feeling indebted to you? In our case, what happens is we have free training that has a certificate at the end. This is something that can help the particular client add to his credentials, and it comes at no cost. So the next time you're approaching him, it becomes much easier for him to, you guys give me something that aided me. Now I'm ready to listen to what you have. So you need to approach it from a human to human perspective. Get to understand the person you're dealing with, their interests, reach out to them, even not when you're not necessarily talking about business, so that you create that enabling environment. That might even shorten that process.
Just to add to Victor's point, before you even get to that point, just make sure that you really understand your customer and focus on the lowest hanging fruit. So out of your pool of prospects, you're going to have people with bigger pain points. Focus on the people with the biggest problems. And if your solution resolves those problems, then you don't really have to follow up, because if your solution is as good as solving the problem that you're trying to fix, they're going to come to you.
But I'll answer on the influencers. Choosing the influencer, I think it's very important not to just jump on eyeballs, because again, remember brand association. Because if you pick up somebody who actually resonates with your brand. So, for example, if it's an entertainment thing with the youth, young people, probably Eric Omondi would resonate, but you probably would not pick a certain character to do something that is completely out of character for them as a brand, because they're also representing their own personal brands. So how does that brand resonate with yours? And also remember, when you're picking influencers, if something should happen and there's a repercussion on your brand, you're going to really, really check, is it worth my risk? So I think those are the two things I would say, my 2 cents on that one.
On the influencer issue, I think you need to be really careful who you choose to handle your brand. And you also need to identify the right person. Like I said, in a B2B setting, you need somebody who knows what they're talking about. And it's unfortunate that from our side, an influencer is somebody who has what? Who has followers. And it might be accidental that maybe when you're adding friends, that's how they know those followers. But they can't actually influence somebody to do anything. It's just a matter of numbers. It's like having money in Monopoly. But you need to identify the right influencer. Even if they have fewer followers, but what you're doing actually resonates with the audience. That's a much better approach to it.
Just adding to that, once you've actually chosen the right influencer and that person has the eyeballs that you're trying to gain, what we must remember is that if that influencer has been instructed by your brand for the call to action, which is to buy, then just remember that 97% are not ready to buy when you're ready to sell. So that rather than doing that, get the influencer for the get the influencer's call to action to be fill in a form. Rather than just buy my stuff, it should be fill in this form so you're actually capturing real data. So the link in bio on Instagram or the link in on Facebook or other platforms, if it leads to a capture form, then suddenly you now have an opportunity to remarket to them without the influencer getting involved. That means you're now in control of the conversation, not the influencer.
So I'm told we are out of time, but our experts are still available for you to chat with them over lunch. And before we go, I would ask them to remind us, how can we get in touch with you? I believe we all know how to get in touch with Victor. Do we? Yes, but Victor, you can remind us, what's your social media handle?
On Twitter, it's Victor Mutua 9. Facebook is just Victor Mutua. LinkedIn, I have a lot of followers, but I'm not a It's Victor Mutua.
For me, Jerry Jariwala on Instagram is probably the easiest way to find me. Or to be honest, I'm pretty much on every single platform. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and also Instagram. So please find me, Jerry Jariwala, in most cases. There's not many of us around.
I'm Dorothy Matheka across all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Right, my name is Thrity Engineer Mbuthia. You can find me on LinkedIn. Drop me a message and we shall talk. Thank you very much. And let's continue our conversations as we continue the marketing conference.
Thank you so much to our panelists. A round of applause for them. And a round of applause for Thrity. You did a good job moderating, right? So as promised, it's lunchtime, okay? So you remember where we had tea? Yeah? Yes, marketers? Yes, okay. So that's where we are heading right now. Please leave and enjoy your